You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome back to the SDSU podcast. I'm your host Andre Hagberdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host Paul Garrison. This is episode 74. For this episode, we have interviews with two more San Diego State class of 2024 commits. First up was Rahim Wright, who is a safety from Rancho Cucamonga High School. Teammates with Stacy Bay, who was also a class of 2024 commit. The first one, actually, for San Diego State that made his commitment official or public. Second guy is Arthur Ban, who is one of the newer commits just this past week. A tight end from Vancouver, Washington, in the Pacific Northwest from Evergreen High School. He is a tall, lengthy, hybrid tight end. As you will hear, he's played a lot of slot receiver. He's making kind of that transition to being more of a inline tight end, where he'll eventually be at San Diego State. So it was great to catch up and chat with both of these guys who are, essentially, going through their last summer of high school before their senior year. And then next summer, they'll be heading to San Diego State to become collegiate athletes. So, and I hope you guys enjoy the episodes. And then Paul and I will be back afterwards to give our takeaways. Let's get to it. We want to welcome Rahim Wright to the SDSU Football Podcast. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, man.
So you committed to San Diego State on April 2nd, about 2 months ago, to the class of 2024. One of the first people to commit in that class. Aside from San Diego State, what other schools were you heavily considering, and why San Diego State was the place you chose?
A couple other schools were Washington State and Utah State. Those were the main schools really kind of hitting me up for recruiting me mainly. There was a couple other schools too, but mainly those two were like the heavy schools. But as far as why I committed, it was very close to home. The location's real nice. My parents can come up there like whenever, like over the weekend. And then their program's like really, really a good program, real good coaches to develop me.
We spoke to Stacy Bay on a recent episode, who was your new teammate at Rancho Cucamonga High. And he was the first person to commit to San Diego State in the class of 2024. Did he have an impact on your decision?
Yeah, in a way, me and Stacy talked a lot at school and about San Diego State, and he was just talking about how the program, like a real good program. So yeah, he did have a pretty good impact on it.
Now, there's been some other commits from your area, and including in addition to Stacy, Foster Slaughter, Terrell Cooks. I mean, how familiar are you with their game? Is there anything that you could tell Aztec fans about them?
I'm not too familiar with them. I know that Stacy is real close with Foster. I have seen him like play at 7-on-7 events and like tournaments and everything, and he is real good too. So
right on. And then you have some teammates that San Diego State has offered, Kyron Condell, Amari Brooks, maybe miss some others because you guys have a super team out there at Rancho, man. But how do you go about, I don't know, encouraging others or people, maybe not even just teammates, but like people in your circle about possibly joining you at San Diego State next year?
Yeah, just talking about the program, showing them like the coaching staff's real good. The program's like on a rise. Just doing workouts with them too can help like lead them to pick San Diego State. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's really their decision. But it would be nice to have other teammates commit to.
Last year, you switched from quarterback to safety. What brought upon that change?
I actually used to play safety like in like middle school. I played both sides. So coming in freshman year, I had to pick like one position. So I chose quarterback freshman year. Had a pretty good year. During COVID, it was kind of like iffy. And then
Mhm.
sophomore year, still continued to play quarterback, but it was kind of getting a little too stressful, I feel like. And then I was also coming back from like a tweak in my back, so I just decided to just switch positions because I felt like I can still do real good in another position.
In preparing for this interview with you, we spoke to your head coach at Rancho Cucamonga, Brian Hildebrand. He talked about how at the passing camp last year at San Diego State, it was your second day playing DB after you had made the switch. So
Yeah.
how important was that camp for you, your confidence, switching back to a position you hadn't played maybe since middle school?
It was real important. I felt like as long as I did my job to help the team win, I would get better throughout the season. I felt like the tournament really helped the team gain more teamwork and trust in each other. So really just trying to find that trust in the team and just really work and do what I can do to help the team.
Coach Hildebrand, he described the play of the passing tournament to
Mhm.
seal the win over Lincoln, which went crazy last year in San Diego. Everyone was following their thing, but he described your interception as levitating. And then after we got on talking, like he's texting me the video of it, showing me the Instagram thing. I mean, you are Andre and I are going back and forth about it. I mean, you're what 5 feet from the quarterback who
Mhm.
tries to hit somebody on a post, and so he's trying to fit it in. Whereas when the DB who's covering is cover the top, so he put something behind it. You're 5 feet away from him. You're able to leap, and in the description of your coach, he said you levitated to be able
Mhm.
to bring that down, man. What do you remember about that play, and then just overall, man? How much of a impact did playing in that tournament have in you deciding to become an Aztec?
What I remember from that play is I don't know, I was sitting in the like kind of gap or hole you want to call it that the quarterback was throwing in, and just right when he threw, I just jumped for the ball and just hope for the best, try to catch it, come down and hold the ball.
I mean, and for everybody listening, he's in the end zone.
Yeah.
This was an interception that happened in the end zone to seal the victory for him. A good athletic play would have been tipping the ball. The
Mhm.
idea that he could not only do that but get two hands on it and then be able to secure the catch, man, just something else. And your coach described and said that was afterwards that Coach Hoke came over to him and said, "Who was that?"
Mhm.
Right? Like you open the eyes of people at that moment. So did that experience there, did that kind of start getting in your mind that San Diego State might be a good place for you?
In a way, yes. I feel like I know a couple players that have gone up to SDSU, Chris Johnson, Eric Butler, and Darren Hall. They really said that it's a real good experience up there. The program's real nice, so they also helped with the decision too, in a way. So just them through them, and just the tournament went very well too. So
How excited are you to get back to San Diego this summer and defend that title?
yeah, yes sir, real excited. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the second week, I believe, the second camp.
Yeah, real excited.
Anybody that talks or writes about your game, including Coach Hildebrand, talks about athleticism. He
Mhm.
told us your athleticism is elite for any level of football. You do things
Mhm.
on the field weekly that surprises him. Where does that athleticism come from your family?
Mainly my dad. My dad was the one that like played sports. So he never played football. He was a basketball guy. So yeah, my dad, he's been like real heavy on working and always like staying motivated. So him and my mom are my like big motivation to keep working, just to like, help the family in a way. So yeah, my parents.
You use that athleticism in track and field. You had a great
Mhm.
track season. You did so well, you even missed spring camp because it kind of coincides with track and field season. Can you give
Yeah.
us a rundown of that track and field season, what your personal bests are and things like that?
Yeah, so my main events are long jump and triple jump. I did run the 100 and 4x1 in the beginning of season, so I didn't really jump as much. But throughout the season, I have real like two real good coaches, Coach Bowden and Coach E, that really push all the athletes to become their best throughout the season. Coach E, my long jump coach, he would really be focused on like being consistent with each jump, coming down the runway and landing on that board, not fouling. So just really being consistent throughout the season.
Where did the track and field season end for you? Is it still going? How did you do competition wise?
So I made it to Masters, which is after CIF prelims and I think finals, I'm pretty sure. So it was right before state prelims. So Masters, my best jump was 23-1. And then for triple jump, my best jump was 41-3. And we had our 4x1 team actually just recently came back from competing in state prelims and state finals, and they got 7th overall in state finals.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And you're fairly new to all this stuff, right?
Yeah, this year was my second year of doing track long jump.
Very cool, man. So now jumping back to football, when you come down to San Diego, you're going to be playing under Coach Kyle Hoke. What have you learned about, we've heard him referred to as Little Hoke or Baby Hoke through this process? I mean, what could you tell us about him as just a position coach, things like that?
He's a real good coach. I remember I went up there, watched a little film with him. He really breaks the film down real good. Their defense is pretty similar to ours, so that really had a big impact also. So I was really able to grasp the things that he was saying throughout the film session, and just he's real genuine, real cool person. So
has he given you any indication about which of the 3 safety spots you might be playing?
Yeah, he said they would start me off as a warrior, so I wouldn't be coming down as much. But soon, like later on, I would probably be coming down into the box and guarding the slots and everything like that.
And as you have developed your game, is there any football player that you've tried to that you've studied that you kind of model your game after?
I wouldn't say not many safeties, but DBs, J.C. Horn and Darius Slay. Yeah, I watch a lot of film on them, and I watch a lot of OD, their trainer. So I watch a lot of DBs, a lot of different DBs, college DBs, NFL DBs. So just a lot of different DBs.
And when you're looking at that kind of stuff, man, what is it that you kind of like pay attention to trying to glean from it?
So like from certain ones, I'll look at like their confidence, leadership, the way they transition to get to the ball, breaks, just overall like play in the player, each player.
It's, we talked about your athleticism. Other than that, what's your primary strength as a safety? What do you think you do best, but that you can bring to the team and bring to the defense?
I feel like my versatility. So I feel like I can really go from one spot to another. So last year I played a lot of nickel too, and I went up to safety. So this year I'm hoping to like help the team in any way possible. So I'll probably play some corner too if we need that, or anything the team needs really.
One of the things, San Diego State is in the news about is conference realignment for the 2024 season. Their athletic director, J.D. Wicker, came out in an article in The Athletic and said, SDSU will be switching conferences in 2024. What are your thoughts on that topic and about being the first class to be in a Power 5?
I feel like it's good. It will help the team get more publicity because they've played the higher ranked schools that people may say like schools that are better, but I feel like they still can compete and will win the games that they need and just really compete with all the other schools.
Earlier in the conversation, man, you spoke about how close San Diego State is to your hometown and, gives the opportunity for your family to come down there, watch all your games, just come down to be down, and just to be with you. How would you kind of describe like the people that are there and where you're at in Rancho? Like, what is your home college? You know what I'm saying? Like where do you all consider is kind of like the one of the home schools that you guys are kind of gravitating towards?
As far as like, what do you mean? Can you
The geography, like kids who are in San Diego obviously say, San Diego State is the hometown school. and you guys are, I don't know exactly where from a football perspective where the kids in your area kind of consider home, and just like how you kind of view that topic.
I feel like it's different for each player, really based off of location, yes, but based off of how like the whole program is, the program may treat certain players certain ways, so it might feel like home to them. The location, the program, and just overall like the school academics. So I feel like any school really can feel like home to any of the players down here, but it just depends on the school and just the program overall.
Yeah, this is interesting because in talking to Coach Hildebrand, he like talked about that staying home, kind of use that same reference about San Diego State, and usually when we think about staying home, we think about San Diego County, but it's like no, it's just it's an hour 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
It would kind of be that same idea of being able to stay home, even though it's not technically San Diego County.
Yeah, yeah.
To finish off the interview, we have some kind of fun, rapid fire, non-football related questions. You ready for those?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? I say pasta, like chicken pasta.
Any particular restaurant that makes your favorite?
No, I wouldn't say any restaurant. I usually like probably eat it at home or something. So yeah.
Mom cooking?
Yeah, yeah.
Favorite movie or TV show?
Movie or TV show? I don't really watch TV shows that much, but movie, I'd say like any Marvel movie. I really like Marvel movies, so yeah, any Marvel movie.
Okay, but you got to rank them, man. Give me the best one.
The best one, I'd say either Infinity War or no, actually I'd say Endgame would probably be the best one. Yeah, I feel like Endgame had the most like action, so I feel like Endgame. Yeah.
So who's your Marvel character?
I like Spider. I like all the characters, to be honest. I like all the characters. Yeah, but main ones I feel like Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Captain America.
Yeah, you kind of grab the most athletic ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a coincidence, man. You kind of see yourself in them.
Yeah.
That levitating, that's his superhero skill. Favorite musical artist?
Musical artist. Right now, I would say Rod Wave. Yeah.
The popular answer we've gotten from a lot of players, for sure.
Yeah.
So we asked you about a football player that you emulate, but do you have a favorite professional athlete outside of football?
Outside of football? No, I don't think I like a lot of different players, a lot of like basketball players, but I don't really have a favorite. So I would say like probably Michael Jordan or Kobe. Yeah. The GOATs.
The GOATs. You said that your dad played basketball? Does he have any old tapes that he shows you?
Nah, he hasn't
brought it out. Ask him about the glory days, man.
So outside of playing football or preparing for football, what's your favorite hobby? What do you like to do?
I have a lot of different hobbies. I play the video game whenever I can, like with my friends and cousins and stuff. I usually I'll like whenever I'm free, I'll do photography. So I'll go out, like I'll take my friend's graduation pictures this year. So just pictures and just having fun, hanging out with friends and family.
Obviously, you've got some time before you enroll at San Diego State, but have you thought about what major you want to study or what field of education, things like that?
Kind of. I was thinking something involving business, like entrepreneuring or anything involving like nutrition, so like kinesiology and like mental health kind of thing.
Those are great choices for sure. I know entrepreneurship, San Diego State has a great program there, and kinesiology as well, so
yeah.
You can't go wrong with either of those for sure.
Yeah.
Rahim, thank you so much. Great interview. It was good to chat with you and get to know you. Maybe we'll see you down at the passing camp this summer, but for sure next year when you come to campus, we'll look forward to seeing you on the field.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
We want to welcome Arthur Band to the SDSU podcast. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Excited to be on. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
So last week you committed to San Diego State in an announcement on social media after
Yeah.
you had received an offer. You became the 7th commit in the class of 2024. Aside from San Diego State, what other schools were you considering, and why was San Diego State ultimately your choice?
In all honesty, I feel like San Diego State was one of those schools that I was really waiting for. It's always kind of been like a sort of dream school for me because of location. And throughout my recruiting process, I've relied a lot on God. And I felt like that was just somewhere I was led to be. So it wasn't really too much thought that came to it behind. Like, once I had already gotten the offer, I just knew it felt right that was, where I was supposed to be. And after talking with my family as well.
You said location. You're from Washington State.
Yeah.
So what was it about the location of San Diego? Is it a place you've been to before? What was it about the location?
Yeah, I've been out there before on like vacation and, 7-on-7 tournaments. And just the entire environment of California itself, it was somewhere that, I was always interested in moving into when I grew older. And I feel like I preferred the atmosphere of San Diego versus like LA, because I feel like that's just kind of too much for me. Like, I don't know if I'd want to live in that city, or like a San Francisco. I feel like, and from the people I've talked to who live there, a lot of people, even some SDSU players have already reached out to me, telling me about the environment. And I feel like it just fits me, because it's relaxed, but also like you're in the middle of the city. So I feel like it's just a perfect balance for me.
In your announcement tweet, you first announced that you got an offer and then that you committed, which is typically not normal. How long was it from the day you got the offer to when you committed? Was it instant, or it was a few days?
No, it was instant. I feel like, honestly, because like I said, I was already kind of expecting it. And, I talked to my head coach about it beforehand, about how I was going to go about, proceeding after they had offered me, since they were this school really that I had my eyes on for a minute. And with my receivers coach, who, has been training me since I was a freshman. They all agreed that just football wise probably was the best opportunity that I had, with the school going to the Pac-12. And also academically wise, they matched the majors I wanted, a great business school. My parents were really happy to hear that I was going there. So it just fit really everything at the time. So I just knew it was the right decision.
And who was your lead recruiter?
Coach Esselo. I got on the phone with him and my receivers coach.
And I guess what could you tell us about Coach Esselo and just the relationship that you guys were able to build?
Yeah, so I met him on Saturday the 3rd, I believe it was, at a showcase. My receivers coach, Jamar Howard, his brand is Big 12 Performance. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, and he's my 7-on-7 coach as well. So he organized a lot of that for me. He introduced me to him at the showcase because they already had a connection. And, just instantly I felt that the energy that he had, it's different, or from different places where people are from. I immediately felt his energy, and that interested me. And then after the camp, he had contacted me on what day is it? On Monday, asking for my number and then my head coach's number. And then that's when everything went down after that.
Wow.
That's incredible. Just for people who haven't seen your game, how would you describe it? And, I guess what position is San Diego State primarily looking at you at?
Yeah, so as of right now, like in my high school program and in the past, I've mostly been playing like a flex receiver, where sometimes I'll put my hand down, but most of the time I'm playing in the slot, because just the way our offense is, they haven't previously required me to put my hand down as much. But this season, through gaining more weight, because I'm sitting around 205 pounds right now. That's 15 more than I was last season. So I'm going to have my hand down a little bit more this season, looking to be like 210, 212 by the season. And they're recruiting me at tight end right now, expecting me to be 220, I believe, by the time I graduate, which isn't going to be that much weight to gain from where I'm at now, with a whole year of development ahead. So that's where I'm at with that.
We've had Coach Esselo on the podcast, and we asked him why so many, top tight ends want to be Aztecs. He said it's because of how physical San Diego State is. Blocking is a big part of that. Where are you with that part of your game? And is that something you're looking to emphasize or work on this coming season?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, in all honesty, that's definitely something I'm looking to work on just because I'm going to be asked to do that a lot more in my high school offense. And I look at it. Another reason I chose San Diego State is because I feel like their offense and their program is a really good opportunity to translate to the league because of the way that they utilize their tight ends. Even the tight end that they had drafted to the Giants, I've seen that. I feel like their offense is just really geared towards, being realistic and getting people to the league. So with blocking, that's one of the main things I'm working on this offseason, making sure I'm physical enough to, represent that tight end position at SDSU.
What's so far throughout your high school career, how would you describe, you mentioned you played, flex receiver in the slot. What are your strengths as a pass catcher?
In all honesty, I feel like what separates me from a lot of people that play the tight end position is that I started out more as a receiver. So I'm very, I trust my footwork and my route running a lot. And I feel like that's the main advantage I have versus a lot of people in this position who rely solely or a lot more on their size. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm in a good position of being able to already have the footwork and the route running, and then gaining size on top of that will just create more dominance. So.
And we've also had Daniel Bellinger, who you just mentioned on the podcast a few times. And, one of the stories he told us is he arrived on campus as 220, like what you're aiming at. And he and Cam Thomas, who is the linebacker for the Cardinals, he was, they both had to gain a lot of weight right when they got on campus. And they said that they would, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to pound a few peanut butter sandwiches, man, just to be able to get enough calories for the day and all that kind of stuff. And it was like an everyday consistent thing, man. Are you ready for that kind of commitment and being able to add that kind of weight once you get on campus?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something I'm kind of looking forward to, being able to be built into that position. Because I feel like I always hear, when you get on campus, they're going to add weight to you no matter what, really. So with every college, it's just, Division I programs have a way of doing that. So I've already been not on that level, of course, because I'm not being monitored, every single meal I eat by professionals, but I've already been adjusting my meals and trying to keep track as much as I can to make sure I'm gaining weight efficiently. Also, because I'm not a Division I program, me and my head coach have been trying to make sure I'm gaining good weight and not just, bad weight from fast food and things like that.
Paul and I were not collegiate athletes, so our freshman 15 was the fast food and the alcohol and all that stuff.
Yeah. A little jealous of being able to add weight freely. But you also mentioned Dan Bellinger. Have you studied his game at all? And if so, man, what are some of the things that you've seen from him?
Studying his game, not as much, honestly, but I have researched, him and what he came in at because, of course, when I was on the phone with Coach Esselou, he was mentioning him and how, he coached him into kind of becoming what he was. And I also saw some interviews of some words that Bellinger had to say about Coach Esselou and how he kind of transformed him into the player he is. And, of course, that picture, I'm sure you guys saw that Coach tweeted about the before and after of him in that Giants jersey. So it was definitely, kind of an inspiration to see that. I always want to have someone to look up to. And I feel like going to the same school, that's definitely a good goal for myself to be able to gain that weight and progress in a somewhat similar way as he did.
Now, are there any, whether they're receivers or tight ends, that you do, study, watch film, model your game around, either whether they're college players right now or professional?
Honestly, Njoku is one of the, tight ends that I really model after because of, the length. And I feel like athleticism, really all the tight ends that kind of switched, we're in the same position of switching from receiver and gaining weight. And, they're more the athletic type that you see. So I've been trying to find more, motivation and stuff like that. But my coach constantly will send me, top recruits or top college players that he thinks I can model myself after. So
You're 6'5". I want to say I read your wingspan is 85 inches, which is
yeah,
would be, I think, the highest from in a combine in a long time. And I think given that wingspan, you project as like a 7-foot guy, right? But based on that wingspan, is that accurate?
yeah. That's like last time I measured, it was like 7'1.5". So 84.5 was the last one that I measured.
And I know you play basketball too. You actually played more basketball growing up than football. How high is your vertical? Have you measured that?
I actually have not measured my vertical officially. No, I haven't.
How are you as a basketball player? Like, what are your strengths there?
Honestly, at first, I always thought I was going to be a basketball player when I was like, middle school and stuff like that. Now that's not the case, So I feel like my strength though is definitely my athleticism. I like on the court, I'm good, but it's not my main sport. So I'm the dunker, the rebounder, the block shots, all that. So athleticism, and I feel like basketball helped me gain a lot of athleticism through like being able to get up and down from the floor and staying bouncy and stuff like that.
So you talk about middle school. How long ago was that?
3-4 years ago, probably. It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
I know. The way you're describing it was like, back in the day.
Yeah, nah.
I was thinking about playing that. I'm like, bro, it's 3 years ago, man.
Yeah, nah.
As yesterday. We read that you decided to play football for fun in the 8th grade for the first time. Can you tell us about that story and I get why you ultimately choose to pursue football?
It's funny. My dad wanted me to start playing football so I could get more physical for basketball because that was my main sport. So he was like, yeah, you should play football. I think it'll help you be more physical and help you get that second element that would help you in basketball. And I'm not gonna lie, my first year, I was not good at football at all. Like I learned from it and came back my freshman year, which was my COVID year. And the way that season was formatted, football was like in February. Yeah, football season started in February. In all honesty, what made me want to pursue football more was just looking up at my peers on my football team. Like one of our DBs, Jonathan Landry, right now, he's committed to Eastern Washington. He was one of the players I used to look up to the most. And I didn't know anything about like offers or anything like that. And he had already had like 4 his sophomore year. And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy to think about. And there was also another receiver from my city, Tobias Merriweather. I don't know if you guys know him. He's at Notre Dame right now. And right now I'm bigger than him. But at the time, we were around the same size. He's like 6'4", 190. And just looking at all the people around me, just seeing myself and comparing it to him, I was like, I can definitely get to this level. And then I just fell in love with the game through putting in work, honestly.
Great answer. San Diego State's athletic director, J.D. Wicker, has been having these public declarations about San Diego State switching conferences, maybe Big 12, maybe Pac-12. I mean, what is your general thoughts when you hear, the administration from the school being that public about where you'll be playing from the beginning?
In all honesty, that was also another factor of, the decision from my coaches. It's exciting thinking that, they would make a move up to either the Pac-12 or the Big 12. I heard those are the two main conferences they're deciding between, correct?
Yeah.
I understand, yep.
Yeah, so between those two, honestly, that's just exciting because, more competition. The Mountain West is obviously a great division. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but the more competition, the more it's just a bigger stage, I feel like. So it's exciting, thinking that I'd be able to play in that environment and in a program like that. So definitely. And I spoke with Coach Esselou, and it's sounding like the Pac-12 more than the Big 12 is what it's leaning towards. It's just exciting, honestly.
You're currently in Vancouver, Washington, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that where you were born and raised, or did you move there eventually after a while?
I was born in Cameroon in Africa.
Oh, wow.
But we moved when I was like 2. So like I was born there, but I'm not really from there. So I lived most of my life in the greater Portland area. And then we moved up to Vancouver my freshman year of high school. So I've always been in the area, like the same 20-mile radius pretty much.
My sister's in St. John's.
Oh, really? Yeah. We used to drive through there to go to the church that we used to go to. So I'm very familiar with that area as well.
To finish off the interview, we have some rapid fire non-football related questions. You ready for those?
Yeah, for sure.
What's your favorite food?
Lasagna. Just a random one.
Nice.
I think it's the first lasagna we've gotten.
I think so. Yeah. Is that a homemade lasagna or
Yeah,
from a restaurant?
my dad knows how to make lasagna, so it's pretty. His is the preferred option, but any type of lasagna, honestly.
Favorite movie or TV show?
My favorite movie is The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith in it. Honestly, I watched that movie so many times. It's just, I don't know. It was one of the first movies that made me. I'm not the type of person to really have any emotional reaction to movies ever, and that was one of the only ones that gave me an emotional reaction. So it's just kind of stuck with me as my favorite since then.
No doubt. I think every time that there's that one scene where he's keeping people out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
I have to fast forward it. I can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite musical artist or group?
Honestly, that one, I could say a genre, but for an artist, I have no clue. My favorite genre is probably R&B.
Okay.
Just kind of slower stuff, but it'd be hard to pick artists because I feel like there's so many talented, musicians out there nowadays.
No doubt.
Diplomatic answer. There you go. Outside of football, do you have a favorite professional athlete?
LeBron James. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of sounds like a generic answer, but I feel like he's the best at what he does. So definitely I'd put him there.
What about favorite hobby when you're not playing football or preparing to play football? What do you like to do?
I would say basketball, but I'll think of something else. Honestly, probably drawing, honestly, because I feel like it just kind of relaxes me. I'm not particularly good at it, but it kind of just is one of those things that helps me stay relaxed and get my mind off things.
Very cool. What do you like to draw?
Usually portraits of people, or I'll just think of something or anything I'm thinking about, like our school logo, or if I happen to, think of a character from a show I'm watching or something like that. So nothing too crazy.
You kind of alluded to this, in the beginning of the interview, as to one of the reasons why you chose San Diego State, but do you have a major in mind that you want to study when you get there?
Yeah, so business is the major that I'm intending. Business or economics type thing is the major that I'm in. That field is the major that I'm planning on going in right now.
Can't go wrong. I was an economics major, and then I got a master's in business, so you can't go wrong there.
There you go.
Definitely.
So what is it about economics or business that interests you?
In all honesty, I feel like my plan has been that, being a Division I athlete is a great platform because it's an easy way to have a lot of influence. And I feel like being able to start a business or grow your own platform or likeness, image off being a Division I athlete is just a great platform to, grow from there. Because there's so many athletes who use their name and just the fact that people like to watch them play a sport, and it helps them grow a business. So I feel like it's just a great platform, and I feel blessed to be able to get that on scholarship for free. So
I know I said last question, but I just thought of another one. We mentioned you were the 7th commit in the class. Have you had a chance to chat with or talk to the other 6 at all?
No, I have not had a chance to talk to any of the other 6. I followed, and I'll probably end up connecting with Sire Gaines from Orange Vista. I saw him on his official right now. Checked out all their stuff, and I looked at some of the other commits as well.
I don't think Sire has committed yet.
Unless you're breaking news.
Oh, I just saw that he was on his official, so I didn't speak to him at all. So that was a mistake.
Clarifying.
Some of his close friends who have committed were telling us on our most recent podcast interview that they were trying to get him to commit as well. So he's on a visit now. We'll see if he commits on a visit or if he goes, waits. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that would definitely add more to the class.
Yeah, no, I just kind of seen him through Twitter, so I haven't spoken with him. But that'd definitely be exciting. The more to the family, the better.
No doubt. As I will say though that I think that you may have just made a record for our podcast. I think Sire would be the first person who's been mentioned twice in
Really?
consecutive podcasts about just people like they brought up a name and it's like, oh, Sire Gaines, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think all the things that you made a record. So
Yeah.
great job, man. Great job. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Congratulations on, getting the offer that you were looking for and finding your home. And, really appreciate you speaking with us this evening.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys as well for having me. It was exciting. So
have a good night, man.
Yep, you guys as well. Thank you.
Paul, that was our sit down with the most recent San Diego State commit for the class of 2024, Arthur Ban, hybrid wide receiver, tight end. Looks like he's being recruited to be more of a tight end at the next level. What did you think of our conversation with him?
There's an aspect of this that probably only interests me. I'm fascinated by it in all areas and in all walks of life. I think that, and don't need to go into it here, but I think we live in a very, very copycat kind of culture. If one business finds something that works really, really well, even if the business is unrelated, other business will copy it because they found a technique that works well for them. And you just kind of replicate something that works in a different environment. San Diego State has kind of resisted that. And in its place, they have looked at them internally and said, what have been the things that we have found success with? And then can we copy that? So we've spent so many conversations, Stacey Bay as a hybrid linebacker in the mold of a Sagoon Alubi and everything that Sagoon offered and brought to the defense. And they're trying to find that same thing, New Zealand Williams, etc., Kyron White, even to an extent. And so to see with Arthur, them trying to duplicate Daniel Bellinger as an athletic, pass-catching high school player who shows, great commitment to being able to put on weight. And, by the time he is in his, redshirt sophomore season, he'll be a specimen just like Daniel Bellinger was. And look, this is what Daniel Bellinger did to be able to get to that. And so it's fascinating to me to see that same kind of philosophy of what has San Diego State been successful in, and then how can the program, how can they look at that and duplicate that in the future?
Yeah, I don't recall completely like Daniel Bellinger's high school tape and where he was lined up and things like that. But if you watch Arthur's huddle tape, it's all slot receiver.
Yeah.
He looks like a wide receiver. He's tall. He's lanky. He's taller than your typical slot receiver, but you can see what he was talking about being flexed out and running routes, things like that. And I think that's going to help him with the passing game. And then obviously the blocking part of it is going to be need to be improved. But if the Aztecs are going to more 12 and 13 personnel, you're going to have probably one of those guys split out wide who don't have to necessarily worry about blocking every down or the majority of their snaps. So he will have to get bigger. He will have to block to get on the field. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of he could be that guy that they haven't had before, that is that more of a speed tight end that could get behind a defense, a secondary that they really haven't had. Logan Tanner might be a guy that's looked at to be that guy now that he's going to be a redshirt freshman. But
Mark Redmond, I think is they're hoping that Mark Redmond can become that.
They're hoping, but you never saw all of Mark Redmond's routes were, less than 10 to 12 yards. You never saw him actually try to go behind a secondary. And maybe that was, play design and quarterback not having the time and all that. But I think they will plan on that, but I didn't necessarily see that as a strength last year.
No, I don't think that they hit those routes. I think he definitely did that. I think a lot of times you saw that with Redmond, and he was more of a decoy, and he was clearing out space and things like that. But going back to Ban, I mean, I think it's just an interesting idea because I'm not 100% sure that like Aztec fans are really believing the idea that there's this kid in Washington from Cameroon who via Portland, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same general area. One of his dream schools is San Diego State.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's something. I mean, that's an interesting idea because you might see a kid from Arizona, maybe some of the Texas kids, as we've talked about how when a Texas kid does really really well, their area really gravitates to that. But I think it just shows that with success and with the things that happen. We missed an opportunity to talk to him about the Final Fours of basketball. I wonder if he was locked in with any of the basketball team and what they were doing. It's pretty impressive that you would get a guy, who has offers before San Diego State, and he doesn't think to himself, you know what I want to do? I got San Diego State now. Now I want to see what else is out there. Can I get something else? Could Washington State, could Washington, could Oregon State, right? The players that are relatively close to them, could those schools now want to do that? Because look, I got this little bigger one, and now I'm going to leverage this, which I think is what San Diego State fans are used to, and to have them say no, like it was instant. Like I got the offer, it's the one I wanted. I think is pretty significant. It's just another sign of many in this 2024 class of the recruiting profile ticking up a little bit on what San Diego State is able to attract.
Yeah, but you haven't seen San Diego State dip into Vancouver, Washington area too often. If you look at the first 6 commits, one's a local San Diego guy, one's a Sarah guy, which we've talked a ton about. Mm-hmm. And then 4 from like the Inland Empire, Orange County, San Bernardino, whatever you want to call that area, which is a popular area. So like now you've got a 7th guy that's from Evergreen High School in Vancouver, Washington. And it's like, oh, that's different than the other guys, but he fits the mold of what they're looking to do. As you talked about, he could be a guy that could become, a game changer for the offense in time. So he's someone to get excited about. Seeing what he does as a tight end, as a full-time tight end in his last year of high school, how he develops, adds weight, as he talked about, becomes a better blocker, I think is going to determine how soon he will be able to play when he comes onto the Mesa.
Offhand, do you know how many recruits from high school the football recruiting class was in 2023?
How many high school guys they got?
Yep.
Like 13, I think. 13 or 14.
Which makes Arthur Ban halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which, I think, again, going back to like old mindsets and things of that nature, 25 is what you were looking for. Yeah. And now you're thinking about that they got 7 already here in June, the first week of June. I think it's pretty significant that they are presumably, right, they're going to have the same number of transfers that they're going to be looking for, around that area, but without talking about like as any sort of like added pressure, but just a reality of the numbers. You do now start going and talking to recruits around and saying, listen, we got 7 more spots. Like that's what we got, because we're going to leave X number that are open. We got these 7 guys, they're locked in. And so it's a really, I think, good way of approaching a recruiting class, because like if you can do it, because I mean, I think as I wrote about when he committed and we had Stacey Bay on here, I think there's something very special about him and about his personality, and I thought it was really good how Foster Slaughter kind of echoed that and just said, man, there's something about this guy, you trust him, right away and all those kinds of things. And I could sense that as I was talking with them. And so there is something special in that Inland Empire area that you were describing, where these kids are thinking that they're staying home, even though they're 40 minutes away, realize, anchoring themselves to their families, being able to come visit them. But if you're able to do what it looks like San Diego State is doing with their 2024 class, you just have the opportunity to not only pivot to 25s, right? But you also can pivot to JCs. You can really form deeper relationships with a smaller group of guys. And then of course you can tell people honestly, like, look, last year we had 13, 14 guys from high school. Now we got 7 commits. Like,
Yeah.
we want you, but we're there's a number crunch, and it's not artificial. And I think that, that should also encourage some of these other people to want to go and lock in their spot and make sure that they can get that. So when are we having Sire Gaines on the pod?
I feel like we've already had him on.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I want to meet this kid. Like,
yeah, the class of 2023 was 14 scholarship high school seniors.
That was in my mind. Yeah.
Shifting to our first interview of this episode, Rahim Wright.
Yeah.
Who's from that Inland Empire, Stacey Bay's high school teammate this coming season, Rancho Cucamonga. I think the first thing that jumped out at me from his talking to him was that he was a quarterback up until last summer. And then suddenly it's, okay, I'm going to be a safety now. I'm going to have a few practices before I play 7-on-7s. And then I'm going to go into a season. And then suddenly I'm getting, top scholarship offers on the West Coast, and I'm committing to San Diego State. So that's quite a 1 year, progression for someone.
Yeah.
And as he talked about, and as you talked about, and how his high school coach talked about, that athleticism that he has is a huge part of his strengths, his versatility that he actually told us as well. So he's another guy, obviously still has another year of high school left to see how he can grow. It is really strange talking to these commits so early in the process, because I feel like when we started this podcast last year, they had already gone through their high school years, right? Or at least most of them, when by the time we talked to them. So now it's like we're talking to these guys and they haven't even become high school seniors yet, and have and the whole season left. So it's interesting. You got to talk to his high school coach, wrote the article on him. What was your main big takeaways?
This is completely unfair. I'm gonna do it anyway, just to try to give our listeners an idea, I think, of what came across to me when the Chargers were still in San Diego. Right, it's gonna be some of the older listeners. When the Chargers were in San Diego, they had a cornerback, Antonio Cromartie, who drove Peyton Manning nuts. And I think people who are longtime Charger fans can remember the one-handed grab where he's like, you just can't even believe that he made plays like that.
Was that Monday Night Football?
Yeah. That's what Rahim Wright reminds me of, but on a high school level. Like, he's not Antonio Cromartie yet, any of those kinds of things. But it's just like there's a script in football, right? And I think you could argue that maybe nobody in our lifetime from the QB position was better at playing the script than Peyton Manning. And maybe sometimes, like the playoffs and things like that, when things went off script, that maybe that's why he wasn't always as great in those moments. But Antonio Cromartie could just put something into the equation that just didn't make sense. He shouldn't be able to do the things that he did. And I think you see the same thing from Rahim Wright. I'm thinking of one of the plays in his huddle where, there's 2 wide receivers set out to the right, and they cross. The receiver on the outside kind of does a deep kind of banana, and the one in the slot does a little like snaking up onto the outside. And Wright doesn't quite like handle it perfectly, but they switch and they get onto their guys, and he throws it. The quarterback throws it into the corner. It should be a touchdown. It's a touchdown all day. And somehow Wright gets back into the play, and with his athleticism is able to do that. Or, there's space between him and a ball carrier, and you just think like, okay, well, this guy's going to be able to do something, and it's going to be like one of those open field kind of like, hey, wasn't that a great tackle? Because he could have went either way. And Wright is like on him immediately, and he doesn't even really get a chance to get anything upfield at all. And you're like, man, he just closed 10 yards like that. And so I think it's just that athleticism that, credit Coach Hildebrand for, and again, I mean, the story of his, like you talked about, last year, the last year, Rancho Cucamonga, when they came to the SDSU passing tournament, there were two players who were on official visits. One of them like to SC, and he was a DB. And I think that opened up opportunities for Wright to be able to play. At least that's the way I understood it. For him to be in his first and second day of like competition at DB and starting, that they recognized that in him. And he said, in the interview, the recent one, he said, we saw what he did and we were like, we're good. like this guy's going to be fine. We got something. And I think that his ability to make up with athleticism, maybe what he's lacking in experience his first year, it would not at all surprise me to see him have a really, really big jump from a second team all league guy to somebody that is making waves because he's able to kind of harness that with the right technique, the right placement, understanding offenses and defenses from that perspective and things of that nature.
We joked we've been mentioning Sire Gaines a lot, but we've also been talking about Lincoln a lot, with Foster Slaughter's current high school beating Lincoln last year and then also to play them again this year. And then Rahim making that one-handed grab in the end zone on the last play against Lincoln. So
right.
Some bad memories. If we have Lincoln high school supporters listening in, we apologize for the bad memories.
Yeah, I'm going to say, though, that like Lincoln's year was so great last year. I'm sure they're just fine with, they were unbelievable.
It always interests me because like when they have the 3-3-5 and you have the Aztec, the field warrior and the boundary warrior, like where the coaches see these guys playing and where they fit. I think he mentioned that they already play a 3 safety in high school at Rancho Cucamonga. I think Rahim said that, but I think they said they see him as a warrior, potentially as a boundary warrior at first before he moves inside. So it'll be interesting to see if he and the current coaching staff in high school will put him in that similar situation to kind of help him, or whether the coaching staff there are going to play him where they need him played, regardless of where he might play in at San Diego State. Just because, you want to win. Obviously, Rancho Cucamonga wants to win. But that always intrigues me on when people commit this early and they've still got that season, where does that factor in? And, are the San Diego State coaches talking to the high school coaches about that kind of stuff? I don't know. It's a question I think we can pose when we have, hopefully, Kyle Hoke on the podcast.
I wish I had come to you for questions when I interviewed his coach, because that would have been a great one to have asked him. There's a text him. But the other thing that I think Wright mentioned is that he might be playing some cornerback this upcoming year. I think that the more opportunity he has to turn his hips, to do those kind of cornerback movements, I think it'll help him in all of those positions, because especially the way San Diego State plays defense, where they're going to go and they're going to line up a corner, and that corner is going to cover on the outside, and it's kind of like, they're on an island out there. Again, bringing up Cromartie, I mean, that kind of athleticism is something else. And, I would never put anybody on like the same athleticism as Antonio Cromartie. And there's a lot of time to develop all of that, those kind of things. But it's just just a comparison. I'm not trying to make too much of that. As far as just, where he's at, I mean, he also announced subsequent to our conversation with him that he's going to be at the Elite 11, all 22 finals, which is invite only high school, kind of like an all-star skills competition. And it started as like the Elite 11 was like a quarterback thing. and now they've branched out and they've brought in other players. And so just, to get that opportunity, that invitation, I think it kind of shows where his reputation is. And the fact that, not going back, but, it's something that Coach Hildebrand, the head coach at Rancho, said to me. He said, the last couple of years, San Diego State has done a really good job of identifying kids early. And then if they fit what they're looking for, offering them. And he says a lot of these other schools come in and they kind of waffle and they kind of say, oh, wait and see. And San Diego State is pulling the trigger with these guys, and they're doing a really great job. And, it made me remember Foster Slaughter's comment where he said, I was at the school, I'm watching film. Coach Maddox comes in and he says, I want you, not let's see what happens, not, and that commitment, I think it means a lot. And, to have a head coach of one of the best programs in Southern California say, hey, those guys at San Diego State, obviously Darren Hall coming from there.
Yeah.
They already have their attention, but just to be able to see that they're capitalizing on Hall's success, that, Hall obviously is a big part of that community with his camp. And, Wright was a counselor at that camp. And I think that it's really smart of San Diego State to be active there in the general area where Lamont Butler's from, Matt Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard. Right? I mean, it seems to be kind of a no-brainer place. And as we're seeing with Stacey Bay, Foster Slaughter, Rahim Wright, etc., Terrell Cooks, who we haven't had a chance to talk to yet. There's some good football being played out there, and it looks like the Aztecs are really taking that area very serious.
Yep. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the interviews with Arthur and Rahim. We look forward to tracking their progress in their senior season and then seeing them on campus in the next summer/fall. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate everyone listening, liking, subscribing, following, sharing on your favorite platforms. We'll be back with another episode soon. It's Father's Day is coming up. So hopefully
don't spoil it.
Hopefully we will have a good episode for that one. So stay tuned for that one, and we'll talk to you next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison.